Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the special edition of Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Dye, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition, we're going to be looking at the government of Liberia's pledge to the Union of Liberian Association in the Americas in the tune of 100,000 United States dollars, and that the union, that is ULA, is going to be included in the subsequent budget of Liberia with the amount of $300,000. Well, there has been a mixed reactions to this pronouncement and the move by the Minister of State, Mr. Nathaniel McGill. And so the Liberian Renaissance, that's Lori, that's the Liberian Renaissance movement represented by Mr. George Wisdom, is asking ULA to reject the money because of a variety of reasons. We are waiting. Judge Wishner is going to be joining us tonight from Monrovia. Also, joining us from Philadelphia is a former president of ULA, a former board member of ULA, and a current supporter or unofficial advisor of the current president of ULA, Mr. Shehu Kamara, in the name of Mr. Wilmot Wetikuni, who is also the chief political analyst of Focus on Liberia. Mr. Kuni, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Dennis. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Also joining me is my co-host, the man who eat, drink, and sleep politics, especially when it comes to presidential politics and the politics of elections in Liberia. Mr. Ansunis is with me here so that we can look at what has been said, what has been done, and what we make of it. We hear from Mr. Wisnon and also Mr. Cooney, who thinks that what happened was in the right direction. Mr. Sia, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Dennis, this is the business I would rather do. I'm happy to be here. Let's do this.
Yes, and we're going to be joined by Mr. Wisner Shatlib. We've gone through everything, but it looks like he's having some technical difficulty. But I want to start by saying I too attended the inauguration of ULA, where a fundraiser was launched, and Mr. Nathaniel McGill was the chief launcher. And in that, he promised 100,000 donation to ULA, that is the Union of Liberian Association in the Americas. On top of that, he also pledged that the next budget cycle, ULA will be included, and the amount is 300,000. Mr. McGill also paid his due for marriage as a member of ULA from the Pennsylvania chapter with the amount $2,500. He also said Finance Minister Tue has also asked that his due to be paid $2,500 for the Atlanta chapter. That's Lamont. That's my chapter. Mr. McGill also made his personal donation of $2,500. These things created a lot of buzz in the Liberian community. In fact, presidential aspirant Mr. Nathaniel Barnes had an issue with it, and he did not hesitate to express that. We're going to go into all that, but let me start with Mr. Cooney. Mr. Cooney, let's look at ULA. And is ULA receiving? How does ULA operate? Where does ULA get money from? And to operate has about it. First of all, what is ULA, and how does ULA get money to operate?
Well, Dennis, thank you again. In short, ULA, the Union of Liberian Associations in the Americas, is the umbrella organization for all Liberian organizations in North America. That is ULA. Liberians and their various organizations that spread throughout North America. The union basically is a conglomeration of community-based organizations that provide services to members of their various communities, that also engage in advocacy and providing services to Liberians at home. That is the core function of ULA. The union advocates for democracy, social justice, and peace, good governance. Those are the core advocacy issue of ULA, historical advocacy issue of ULA. And then as we go in this program, I will be able to tell you when the advocacy shifted. Other areas of focus were added to the responsibilities of ULA. So basically, it is the largest diaspora organization, the largest Liberian diaspora organization. There is no organization, Liberian organization in the diaspora, whether here, whether in Europe, that is bigger than ULA. Basically, ULA is a miniature of the Republic of Liberia outside of Liberia. To the point where sometimes people tend to say that the president of ULA is like the president for Liberians outside of Liberia. And sometimes the relationships are formed along that line. We are the official spokesperson for diaspora Liberians in the United States and North America. And as I said, there are a lot of organizations that are members of ULA, county organizations, cultural organizations. All of these organizations come under this umbrella to give voice to the diaspora.
Thank you. So the next question there was, how does ULA get money to operate?
Basically,
from the government.
ULA generates its money through two major sources: donations, due payment from member organizations, and sometimes also grants from state and local governments, resources. That's how ULA generates its finances. The social services department of ULA mobilized grants from local, federal, and state resources. And this is why we're finding this whole idea really comical. ULA as an organization getting money from American government, state government, but now because our own government decided to give, some financial support, now it is a controversy. That's the funny aspect of the whole crisis, of the whole issue.
Before I bring in Mr. Sear, as we go into the show, let me still on ULA. Has there been any time in ULA that ULA has received money from the government for operation? I understand from the very beginning, President Turbert donated maybe 1,000 in the beginning of ULA. I think that was the amount, something along those lines, but you know better than that. Is there any example of the government of Liberia making any donation to ULA?
Okay, before I answer that question, there was an important disclaimer I wanted to make. I'm only showing the capacities in which you've introduced me, former president of ULA, political analyst, member of CDC, strong supporter of the president. I'm not here as an official spokesperson of the union. The union has the ability, they have the men, they have the capacity to come and speak for themselves. I'm only speaking as a former president of ULA, as a political analyst, as a supporter of CDC, as a supporter of President George Manning Weah. So people that hear me in that context. I'm not speaking for ULA. I'm speaking things that I know in ULA because of my past leadership of the association. And the question is, you say, is there a history where the government of Liberia has contributed financially to the union? The short answer is the involvement of the government of Liberia in whatever program that the union undertake has to do with the issue that is at hand. Like you rightfully mentioned, during President Tolbert's time, there were donations made to the union, and Tolbert invited ULA to Liberia to discuss issues confronting the Liberian people. There are times where the union is invited to national events, and sometimes the cost is shared between the government and the union. In my own time as president of ULA, when we advocated for the creation of the diaspora office in Liberia, at the launching of that office, ULA was invited to Monrovia at the expense of the government of Liberia. ULA did not pay any penny to attend that. The government provided the tickets, the lodging, and everything. So in some situations, based on the issue, based on the activities between ULA and the government, yes, there has been some level of funding that comes from the government. This is not the first time.
Thank you. Mr. C, I was at this program and a lot of things happened that we're going to bring forth, but let me get your opinion on this if you have question or comment.
Thank you. And Mr. Coney, earlier you said there has been funding going to ULA from governments like, state or local governments here in the United States. Can you speak to that with certainties? And so let me rephrase my question. Has ULA throughout its history, based on your knowledge, has received any grant, any financial donation from any local or federal government here in the United States?
Absolutely, yeah. ULA has done that in support of the ULA Social Services and Educational Fund. There have been solicitation, and local different layers of government has responded to those requests, those funding requests. But more so, the brunt of sustaining the union rests on the dues paid by the member chapters and from individual contributions from Liberians that are associated with the union. So that has been the practice. The Union Social Services is a tax-exempt organization that provide social services to Liberians here and that engage in service delivery at home, either maybe in the area of school renovation and other these things. So this is not the first time that the union is being in partnership with the government, or the union has decided to work with the government. As a matter of fact, the whole policy of constructive engagement with the government has been a policy that has been in place since 2006.
To follow up here, that one is clear. The partnership, the engagement on policy issues, government after government dealing with ULA, because ULA is a representation of Liberians in the diaspora, especially in North America. That is clear. And you also provided some significant information that there was a time that the Liberian government financed the trip of ULA to Liberia and everything else. That is important to also know. Now, my question also here is that the Liberian government, people in government, has there been a time any member of the Liberian government to make any open pronouncement of due payment to ULA? Maybe that person was a former member, left, went in government. Has there been people in government paying their dues to ULA? Has there been a time also when the government of Liberia had announced, or somebody in government had ever announced, a huge amount of money as a donation to ULA?
Well, look, let put things in context here. As I indicated, the union's relationship with the government is not an unprecedented act. Since the end of the Civil War, since the emergence of a freely democratic governance in Liberia, ULA has always worked with the government of Liberia. The difference here, what we're seeing here, is that this current government has taken the collaboration to a higher level. It has taken the collaboration to a higher level. So the difference is not in kind. They've taken it to a higher level, but intermittently, in between times, there are individuals that work in the government that make donation to ULA. The Liberian embassy have made, various ambassadors, even including Ambassador Barnes. They've all contributed to ULA. Individual members of government have contributed to different funding requests from the union. This is not unprecedented. The only thing that is unprecedented is that now, for the first time, the union has a partner in Monrovia that recognizes the importance of the union, that view the union as a very significant representative of the Liberian diaspora and want to work with the union in much more significant ways. That is the only difference. But in terms of every Liberian government, I work with ULA. I think the mistake people are making here, there are people that want to turn ULA to an opposition political party. That's not ULA. If you think ULA is supposed to be in perpetual opposition to the government of Liberia, then you don't understand ULA. You don't know what ULA is. ULA is not a political organization. I concede to you that in the late 80s, when democracy was democracy was not being fully implemented in Liberia, military dictatorship, or even during the era of the TWP, when these repressive government infringement on freedom of speech, political participation, all of these things were in place, YULA was the lead advocate on democratic issues.
Mr. Kone, we're not questioning the advocate aspect, and I want you to make it short here. So in essence, what you're saying here is that this is not the first time the Liberian government is making financial contribution. This is not the first time official in the Liberian government making financial contribution to YULA, except that the amount being announced is much more bigger now. Is that what I'm hearing?
And the context, the significance of the relationship, it's been taken to a higher policy level. The union has dealt with individuals in the government much more so now on individual basis, but this is the first time that an official policy of the government is emerging to embrace the Liberian diaspora under the canopy of YULA. That is the only difference.
And you also appreciate that another difference is now YULA will be in the budget. It's on the budgetary.
It's unprecedented, but it's not controversial. The government.
I didn't say controversial. This is the first time we are talking about YULA being included in the national budget.
Yes, and we think that for me, I believe that it is the right move. YULA is providing services in Liberia during the corona outbreak. YULA was in Liberia providing masks, providing different things to fight the corona. Even when it came to Ebola, YULA was there. What many Liberians don't know, the first donation from the diaspora during the Ebola crisis came from the Liberian Association of Pennsylvania. $15,000 that came from the Liberian Association of Pennsylvania to provide needed services in Liberia. So the union provides services in Liberia. The government is recognizing that role and try to support the union so that the activities of the union can be enhanced in Liberia. The other notion we have to clear here is that because many people are thinking that maybe this is $300,000 that is coming from Liberia and coming to the United States. No. If and when the government appropriate this money will be used for Liberians in Liberia. It is very important to know that. So the government is not putting money through Western Union to send to YULA leaders here. YULA is an active organization in Liberia.
And how do you know right away that is not going to be the case when YULA resides in the United States? Why would the money not come to the headquarters of YULA or to be expended?
Because the activities of YULA are focused in Liberia. The program the minister contributed to is the Liberian reconstruction project for programs in Liberia. So the money, and many people are making it to appear that the money is coming here. No, it's not coming here. It will be used in Liberia. It will be used for various YULA activities in Liberia, benefiting the people of Liberia.
So Mr. Kone, I'm not an expert in nonprofit law, right? But wouldn't that be a problematic if YULA operating here as 501c3 is receiving foreign donation? Is that not going to be a problem?
No, but it's not going to be a problem because what I hear now is that YULA, in fact, that was my plan as president of YULA. I didn't realize that. The plan that I understand this administration will put into place is to register YULA as a Liberian organization in Liberia. I had that plan as president of YULA. I didn't achieve it because there were a whole lot of competing goals, so we were unable to register the organization in Liberia. So YULA will be a Liberian NGO in Liberia. Fundings that support activities in Liberia, I believe, will be left with the Liberian office to implement those programs on the ground, not the other way around. And YULA here in America will do everything they can do, everything they will do to support the programs in Liberia. And without the important point I'm making is that even without government funding, YULA has provided incredible services to Liberia. So this is not like this is YULA first time going to Liberia to do these things. We from COVID to education to health. ULA has provided services in all of those areas. You go to looking down, there are hand pumps and everything constructed by ULA or constituent members of ULA. So we are actively involved in non-governmental activities benefiting the people of Liberia. And the government support will go to that, will go in that direction.
Thank you, Mr. Cooney. I know ULA because I myself am a member. In fact, full disclosure, I ran with the current president now of ULA as the secretary, and I was the campaign chairman the next election 2017. So I know how ULA is chapter-based organization. So when you are saying that this money is going to be used in Liberia and it's going to be given to the Liberia ULA branch, is this something that the chapters have decided and agreed upon, even though the money is not received yet, but you know how it's going to be used and the process?
Long time ago, ULA as an institution decided to open an office in Liberia. Like I said, it was a decision taken even when I was president. We didn't get to do that because of some other competing activities that came along. I'm very much sure the current president is thinking in that direction. I'm not a member of the government, but I want to believe, given this new level of relationship in Liberia, it is very reasonable for me to expect that they would think on something like that. They would think on something like that. So long that we got
Mr. Cooney,
the stage of ULA being in Liberia.
Mr. Cooney, are there other Liberian organizations similar to ULA, either in Liberia or somewhere else, that are in the budget that you know? If so, can you give me some names just to see how this is not anything new?
Mr. C, we already said the idea of ULA being in a budget is unprecedented. It's unprecedented. So I don't know of other organizations that may be in a government or Liberian funding, but the important thing for you to know is that ULA is the recognized diaspora organization in the United States, in North America, that represent Liberians and their various organizations. So the government has taken the most correct decision that the way to build stronger relationship with the diaspora is to deal with this a larger based Liberian organization that represent their interests. You were at the inauguration. That inauguration is different from any other diaspora inauguration. If you go to Sano County inauguration, you meet those Sano people. You go to Grand Jira, you go to Lofa, but what you saw a Saturday night was the assembly of Liberians from all the counties of Liberia. Liberians from everywhere. So the government had made a very wise decision that the way to engage our people in the diaspora is to go through this one organization that represents them all, instead of going through smaller organizations, different organizations.
And here's my question, Mr. Cooney, and I will start with a story. Okay, I have I would say a nephew who say, "Oh, Uncle Dennis, I will pray for you, so you're going to get money, then so you can send me XYZ." So I said, "But why you want to give God a hard time? You sending God through a long loop, right? Why don't pray that God send the money to you directly instead of sending it through me?" Here's my question. If there are projects in Liberia that needs to be undertaken by ULA, would it not be wise for the government to put that money in an organization already operating in Liberia instead of sending it through America before it bouncing back in Liberia? What's the logic there?
I mean, you asking the question as if to say the only organization the government work with in Liberia is ULA. No, that's not the case. The government worked through so many organizations. The government gave public money to different organizations. The government gave money to the churches. The government gave money to hospitals. The government gave money to schools. The government gave money to child care centers. The government gave money to different organizations. So ULA is not the only organization that the government is planning to give money to. Gentlemen, look, we got to be open-minded about this discussion. The government gave money to various different private institutions in the country to do different things that impact the life of Liberians. The government is saying, well, this is your plan for Liberia. This is what you want to do in Liberia. We will support you so that these services you want to provide for the Liberian people, so that they can be provided, so that the people can benefit. It's just that simple. I don't know why it is so difficult to understand.
Mr. Cooney, ULA is in a much better place. By that, I mean in the US, where Liberians who by default are all members of YULA, even if they don't want to accept that, right? Because the umbrella organization that represent all Liberians. So if only the YULA could provide excellent leadership and develop programs and put measures into play that will bring Liberians to the fore, YULA will be able to raise over 2 to 3, and if possible, $10 million. If even just one Liberian were contributing maybe $2 a year. How do I know that, right? Liberians, from what we see, have contributed in 25 million, 50 million, and more, even 100 million plus a year to Liberia. So YULA have ways of raising millions, but this is YULA that is now celebrating a donation from a very poor government that cannot even meet all of its responsibility because of budgetary constraint. The question is, how does this make YULA to look in terms of capability and effectiveness in raising funds?
Mr. C, your statement is loaded, and it presupposes that YULA has never, or does not have an effective leadership.
Yes, that is what it is, and you can defend that. YULA has not been able to raise $1 million a year.
To mobilize financial resources here. That is completely far from the truth.
What's the highest YULA has ever raised in a year time?
How many questions are you going to give me? I'm answering your question. You agree, you already agree that the union cannot create an effective leadership. I will answer that, but if we accept also your premise that the union belongs to all of us, if what you said is to be accepted and treated seriously, the question that I pose to you or to other Liberians, if I say you, I'm not talking about you personally, the question that I pose to people, if you think this union is supposed to be a juggernaut that's supposed to raise money or that's supposed to provide excellent leadership, YULA has been here since 1974. If YULA is not doing it, if the leadership is not doing it, if they have not found the leadership to do it, what stop you? What stop Liberians from taking over their association and put it in the direction you're talking about? You see, this thing about community service, no one has a monopoly to it. It was not designed for a specific group of Liberians. So if they're doing it, and if they're not working according to you, it becomes Liberian responsibility to put in the kind of leadership they want. We can't keep blaming people all the time when the power resides with us. But the point is, you here in the diaspora, Liberians, when it comes to giving, they are one of the meanest people, especially when it comes to national issue. Liberians may give in other areas, but when it comes to the Republic of Liberia, to say this is affecting Liberia, you all come together, let's put our resources together to do this for Liberia. There is a complete lack of interest in what is Liberia. I'm saying that as a community leader, there are times where people in their individual counties, they will raise money for their counties, for their villages, for their towns. But you bring these same people, you say this is YULA. You let raise it for the nation. Liberia is absent. That is our character as a people. We gravitate.
And you think leadership is not part of it? It's more so because the people are now willing.
Listen, we gravitate to our locality. We gravitate to our tribe. This whole national spirit thing is not in us. So you find, for example, someone who is paying $500 for membership due in a chapter. That same person will argue that a due of $250 in YULA is too exorbitant. It's too exorbitant. So that is the challenge we face. And you have to be creative to raise money to do these things.
So YULA is like, okay, you don't want to give us money, we're going to the almighty government, even though that almighty government in Liberia is poor.
No. YULA is in the position that anybody that find our work, that finds the union work relevant and want to partner with the union will partner with that entity. So YULA is now going around begging and say, "Oh, any change?" No, YULA is a service delivery agency.
Don't you think?
If an entity or group of individuals find the union worthy to work together to implement the programs of the union, if I were president of the union, I don't see the reason why I would reject that.
Don't you think now that YULA has received this donation, or is to receive this donation, and using your word, unprecedented meeting dues payment from key government actors who want to see their government re-elected, and now promising to put it in the budget, not made YULA to become subservient and pandering to this government, and not be on point when it comes to accountability and say, well, we got to get our budget anyway. We are part of the government now. That's why we see.
I'm going to be high on my own FOL, because FOL was at the inauguration. You heard Minister Nathaniel McGee saying very clearly that despite the relationship that we are forging, despite our collaboration, I call on you to criticize the government when the government is not performing.
Right.
Minister McGee made that statement.
Mr. Cooney, I was there. Mr. Cooney, I was there. I heard that statement.
Okay.
So let me end with that, because I found it out around it that he said that. He said, even though you said you're going to engage with the government but criticize, or I don't know what was the need to say that. Because
the need to say that is exactly
because his understanding was engagement or constructive engagement is devoid of criticism, and that's not true. But go ahead.
No. The reason why it was wise, the minister was wise to say that is precisely the kind of question that Asoni is asking, because you are working with the government now. The government is going to provide some level of funding. Will you now be a subservient entity to the government? The question Asoni is asking, it is in anticipation of those kind of belief that the minister is saying, look, though we're working together, but you, as YULA, if you find out that there is corruption in Liberia, if you find out that there are things the government are doing, you should call us to book. So I don't know how transparent the minister could be. I don't know how open the minister could be to allay the fears of Liberians. But one thing I know about Liberia as a cumulative leader, when people make their opinion, when they make their view, when they take their position, nothing you can do to change them. They will remain in our track. So this relationship with YULA, I think, is a very good relationship. I think the current administration should explore it. They should take the government on the offer, provide the services that the people in Liberia need. And if there are areas where the union and the government disagree, I'm very confident that the leadership will take they will do the necessary.
The YULA go seeking for it to be injected, placed in our budget. The YULA goes seeking for this, lump sum donation of 100,000. Is there an accomplishment also for YULA, in your opinion, from the YULA side?
No, it is the wisdom of the government, and I think the government was very wise to do that. It's the wisdom of the government that recognized that there are about 500,000 of its citizens that live outside of the country. Liberians in the diaspora contribute about 20% of the country GDP. We provide a whole lot of services to Liberia, and I think it was wise on the government to find that central point where, to engage the diaspora. So YULA did not go seeking, but at the same time, YULA welcomes that collaboration. Look, as I told you,
but you said this money is not coming to Liberians in the diaspora. It will be used for Liberians in Liberia, right?
Yeah, so when we do it in Liberia, we're doing it in YULA name, right?
But you were just saying recognizing Liberians in the diaspora. So this is not a recognition of Liberians in the diaspora, isn't it? If this money is not going to be spent on us, how is that a recognition of
the money? The money is not intended to be spent on you. The money is to enhance your activities in Liberia.
Mr. Cooney, there has been a lot of criticism to this donation, and we want to share one of those.
You know what people get.
One of those was shared by Ambassador Nathaniel Barnes, and take a listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, I'm honored to be here. And I, at this point in time, want to take His Excellency up on an offer to make constructive criticism of our government before I make my personal pledge. Given the fact that our government is among the poorest in the world, our country is among the poorest in the world, I take exception, respectful exception, Excellency, that the government of Liberia will offer to underwrite or make a donation to ULA, which is an independent organization. More importantly, based on what I heard His Excellency, the new president, say, ULA is supposed to be providing assistance to Liberia. So why would you, why would our government provide financial support to ULA, who has over the past provided in remittances to diaspora better than $500 million annually? So I respectfully suggest that you, as an official of our government, reconsider. Maybe instead of giving a donation to ULA, we might provide building a couple of more schools in Liberia.
You heard him. That's the former ambassador of Liberia to the United States, Mr. Nathaniel Milton Barnes, expressing his objection and asking the Minister of State to reconsider that. He said, well, it's like ULA should be providing these services to Liberia. ULA is the highest, or Liberians in the diaspora are the highest donor when it comes to sending things to Liberia. Now, it's the other way around. So please reconsider this. Instead, use that money to improve the living condition of the people in Liberia by investing, for example, in schools. Mr. Kuni, what's your response?
You know, I got the utmost respect for the ambassador. He's a very good man. But on this one, I disagree with the ambassador because, again, there are a lot of false assertions in what he stated. The statement presupposes that ULA is then providing any services to Liberia, that we are waiting on this money to begin to provide services in Liberia. I've indicated here that the union has provided a lot of services in Liberia. Education, health, school renovation, everything we've been doing that. And this new collaboration is only going to enhance the union's activities in Liberia in that direction. So to suggest that either that ULA has not been providing services, he was completely incorrect. And again, I don't see anything wrong with government providing money to non-governmental agencies to carry on projects that impact the lives of people. If ULA, assuming the funding come to ULA, if the Liberians that ULA will be serving in Liberia, are they not Liberians? Would it be different category of Liberians? So I think the ambassador is in his political dance. This is a political season. We expect that. The ambassador is in his political dance. But you and I know that all over the world, government provide funding to non-governmental agencies. Government, I mean, how is the public health system here being sustained in America, if not for government funding? Where are people taking the money from? So this whole idea that non-governmental agencies should not take money from the government, it goes to the mentality of people who see ULA as a permanent political opposition to the government. That's what this whole thing is about. When ULA work with the government in other areas, they don't see anything. Do you know that in 2019, ULA worked with the government of Liberia to schedule the first investment forum in the United States? Nobody said anything about that, because no money. So this whole thing is about the money thing. And the other thing about it is all these people that complain about money, you go in the various communities, you ask them to donate even to their own local organizations. They can. They don't. The whole dual citizenship advocacy, for each time you even schedule a meeting for people to come and strategize, it is the same 100, the few committed 100, 150 people. But they lay back to blame people because of things not happening their way. If you think the government of Liberia not supposed to get money from YULA, YULA not supposed to get money from the government of Liberia, organize their fundraising and support the year.
Mr. Kone, what about the criticism that there's a need in Liberia? Right now, electricity is being rationed, Tottenham High, LU, they're all in ruins. There are a lot of things. What the ambassador said, other people are saying is, why not use that money?
So look, Dennis, this is very comical. So if the government don't get that $300 to YULA, then the electricity will come. Everybody will take pay. There will be paved street. There will be safe drinking. That's a nonsensical argument. Very nonsensical. I mean, it's the same thing we've been hearing when you go to Liberia to advocate for dual citizenship. People want all kinds of utopian conditions to be met before they approve dual citizenship. You know, it's nonsensical. The $300,000 that is projected, that one will stop electricity. It was supposed to get electricity.
Mr. Konen, what you are saying is that my family or your home has no electricity. And you don't necessarily have to pay your electricity bill because you have to make a donation to a friend. How is giving a friend a donation when your house has no electricity not nonsensical than you think?
Well, if you can only prove to me that had you not given that donation, you will have electricity. And no one can prove that if the government don't give the $300 to YULA, all of the social problems of government will be solved. That one make it nonsensical.
You are stretching
because the government can the government can withhold that money and we will still have the problem that Minister Barnes and other people are talking about. Minister Barnes and they be in government. They had the opportunity to solve this problem. What did he do? What is his record? You were Minister of Finance. You were Minister of Finance. What did they do to solve all these mounting problems? As soon as you open your mouth, oh, the country didn't get light, you're doing it. Oh, the country didn't get light. What did he do to bring light to Liberia during his time? What did he do to bring road construction to Liberia when he was Minister of Finance? What did he do to pay teachers? What kind of educational system he put into place? What kind of healthcare system his government built? What did he do? Nada.
So the posture there is since these things were not done, I mean, let him just shut up. You shouldn't say anything.
No, somebody will have to have the moral authority to criticize. If you don't have the moral authority, just don't criticize. We're not saying we're not done. Say it shouldn't be done. We are building roads. The CDC government is building roads. You know that. The CDC government has extended electricity to Liberians. It was 49,000 during Ellen Johnson's lifetime. It almost going to 175,000 households. So we're doing these things.
Mr. Kone, let us talk about
there's $1,300 that is solution to all Liberian social problems. That was nonsensical. I would say,
Mr. Kone, let us talk about the government priorities. As a government that is in a position we all know is in, there are some people who are not taking pay despite these lies that the government is covering with pay or salary for all government agencies and ministries. That's complete lies, right? So,
what administrator has not taken pay?
You want to know?
Yeah, I want to know. Government administrator has not taken pay.
You forgot the many protests? All the problem stuff out of a sudden now?
Government
there are people at RRA that have not taken pay. That's a fact.
That pay they were protesting for. I understand they were protesting for a transition to a new company that was coming. That's my information. They were not protesting for pay. There was a new company that was coming in.
You are not listening well because you are supporting the government. And I understand it's your job to clean anything that is not clean.
That is shutdown tactics. That is shutdown tactics. Okay, but go ahead.
So don't take this powerful question that will choke you from.
No, it won't. It won't.
Okay, fine. So the question is, this is a government that has priorities. We have services that are not being provided. Why will you not want to commit the little you have to those services other than finding huge sum of money for an organization that is in the US that should have means to raise money and not raising money? This is not how you set your priorities. So when it comes to the issue of priority, I'm not sure how is this a priority for the government. Do you think it's a priority to commit money to ULA?
So the 500,000 Liberians that live outside of Liberia not priority.
Oh, so you want to make it about Liberian outside now? I thought you said the money for those in Liberia.
No. The 500,000 Liberians that live outside of Liberia, they're not priority.
Is there money for the Liberians outside of Liberia?
It's for the Liberian organization that will provide services for the same priority things you're talking about in education, in health. How are those things not priority to you? They're not giving it to Guineans. They're not giving it to Sierra Leoneans. They're going to Liberia to provide these services for Liberians.
So why the Liberian
organization? I think your problem is the fact that it is ULA that is doing it. If other organizations were doing it, you won't get a problem.
No, the issue that I'm raising is ULA has the means of raising significant amount of money because of where it is located. So there are Liberian organizations as we speak in Liberia who don't have the means, who are not close to sources of funding as ULA is. Why can't the government make this kind of allotment to those institutions other than ULA?
The government can chew gum and walk at the same time. Sometimes you make the whole issue of government a binary choice. If the government don't do this, then the government can do this. I submit to you, government can do many things. The government can engage its diaspora organization and do other things in Liberia. Nothing stop the government from doing that. The government doesn't walk on a tightrope. You either do this or you don't do this. It's not how government runs.
Mr. Cooney, another group that is objecting to this and in fact asking the minister or ULA to reject this donation is the Liberian Renaissance Office Incorporated, LORI, right? And in a press release, this is what they are saying. I want you to take a listen.
What that group, that political group?
You will see. The Liberian Renaissance Office Incorporated has called on the newly inducted president of the union, Mr. Shehu Kamara and team, to reject the donation of 100,000 USD of the Minister of State for Presidential Affairs, Nathaniel McGill. Here's the reason. Such donation of huge sum of money by a senior official in the office of the president is a display of runaway corruption, consuming the government, the receipt of which makes a recipient complicit to corruption and the ongoing abuses of public offices. Here's what they say. They term the action of Minister McGill has reckless insensitivity to the continuing worsening economic conditions of the Liberian people due merely to the unprecedented corruption and gross mismanagement over the years.
That political tautology, it got nothing to do with what we're talking here. If the man has a political case against Minister McGill and the government, let him go and make it. But the union is now going to reject it would be, well, I shouldn't say because I don't speak for the union. It would be completely foolhardy for the new president to reject a collaboration partnership with the government of Liberia. ULA is not an opposition party. And ULA, in my view, should not be, the enemies of the government should not be the enemy of ULA. Everybody got a ground to go for their own enemy. ULA and the government want to engage in collaborative relationship so as to enhance services that ULA provide to Liberians in Liberia. It is a welcome development. It's one of the smartest moves the government could make, and there is no basis for the rejection of that money. The money does not compromise ULA's ability to hold government accountable when the government doesn't do the things that it's supposed to do, as the minister himself acknowledged. So this is just political theater. The enemies of other people should not be ULA enemies. Political, I'm not talking about political enemies. The political opposition of other people should not be ULA political opposition. ULA work for everybody. And you talk about minister paying a due, the minister make it clear. The minister says he wants to be a member of the Liberian Association of Pennsylvania, and he pay his due. So what's wrong with that? The Constitution of the Liberian Association of Pennsylvania says for Liberians that live in Pennsylvania and those who share in that Constitution, the belief of that Constitution. So now we must reject people from joining our various associations based on whether they're in government or they're not in government. That's what you want to do now.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. We are discussing the government of Liberia's donation of $100,000 to the Union of Liberian Associations in the Americas. Also, in the pledge to add 300,000 budget line for the next year budget, as if, maybe, I don't know, our economic team will have to tell us how we come up with these budget lines that a minister of state can stand up and say, well, this is the budget line, but why can't he? Is stationary budget.
You don't know where it's in the minister budget.
Okay, so at this time we're going to take comments, and we are still waiting for the country.
As anyone bring Brother Boy,
coordinator of Lorry, that's the Liberian Renaissance Office, Mr. Judy Wisner, to join us. That's George Judy Wisner to join us. In the meantime, let's play a clip again from Minister McGill on this donation. Let's see. Minister McGill said a lot of things. This one.
The budget has already been passed. However, Mr. President, this will be an initial contribution of the government. And I'm quite sure that contribution will come through the Ministry of State or Presidential Affairs. The government will make a contribution of $100,000 US.
All right, Janet, leave it right there. I have a lot of questions there. I hope this chief political analyst will be tested today. Mr. Koning, I don't know anything about budget, but I know that when a budget is passed, it becomes law. The budget is passed for specific reasons that, the budget line should be used for. This 100,000, according to Maggie, will be coming from the Ministry of Presidential Affairs. I've seen their budget. It's loaded. So poke in there. So they have the money there. But according to that very budget, the budget had itemized those things the money will be used for. So taking 100,000 outside of what's being budgeted and legal to be used for specific purpose, to be given to ULA, don't you think it's a violation of the budget law? Don't you think that is a problem?
No, I don't think so. Because you see, look, Asani, look, I don't know the details of the budget of the Minister of State. I don't know that detail according to you. You do. But I would be really surprised if a budget for the Minister of State, for the government of Liberia, would be written in such a way where the functions of the ministry is so straight-jacketed that there will be no flexibility in that budget. I would be surprised to see that. I'm not a budget analyst, but I know how these budget allocations are made. I mean, I was a president of the union. The union developed budgets. I know the flexibilities within budget. So to say that what the minister said may not be found in his budget, that's something that I would really, really find it hard to believe. That's not the way budgets are written. That's not the way budgets are made. There are allocations for different things that can be in the budget, and you as head of the agency, you can utilize what is approved based on the flexibility of the budget that pertains to your office. And the minister is a very smart man. He's an educated man. If there was no way for his office to finance that pledge, I don't think he would make such a public declaration. So sometimes we have to give the benefit of the doubt to our colleagues.
So you are just trusting his judgment that he's so smart that he cannot make a blunder?
No, I'm trusting the principles that go with budget formulation. That's why I'm trusting that budgets are not made to straitjacket people.
Okay, before I welcome Andula Mambe in, who just joined us, let me ask this question. Stationary for Presidential Affairs 2021 was 75,000. In the 2022, when the budget was a draft, that went focus on Liberia, pick these numbers up, right? It jumped to 508,000. So let's say McGill is taking 100,000 from this 500,000 plus to give to ULA. You think in terms of the budget, that's the kind of flexibility you're talking about? He got more money for stationary, so he can take money from there, right?
Anthony, organizations run by recasting budget. People recast budget all the time. They reappropriate funds all the time. So I don't know where you take this idea from that once a land, we saw Donald Trump building a wall. Did they have any money in a place there for Donald Trump to build a wall? The US Congress, they refused to give Donald Trump any money to build a wall. But Trump, using the flexibility of the budgetary process, found the money in other agencies of government that Congress approved. Yeah, we see these things.
Thank you. At this time, let me welcome Ambulat Mambe. Mr. Mambe, welcome to Focus on Liberia. It's good to have you.
Welcome, Anthony, and welcome, Dennis. Welcome to, thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Dennis. And it's good joining you to have a conversation on this McGill's appropriation and ULA's response. I'm very interested in the conversation. That's the reason why I joined. So we can
and thank you for reaching out, and we appreciate that. You took interest in this. Before we can go further, you heard about it, you read about it, you might have written about it. What do you make of all this? 100,000 and then 300,000 for the budget. What do you make of it?
It's wrong. It speaks to the insensitivity.
Before you come out, just little thing about you to just introduce you to our viewers as to so just something short about yourself to introduce yourself to our viewers.
Oh, thank you. I'm Ambulat Mambe. I'm an international agricultural development practitioner. I work to implement the USAID food security programs in fragile countries. I work to implement the Food and Agriculture Organization Food for Nutrition program in Ghana. So that's just a little bit about me. I'm a Liberian from Liberia, and I live in the US and work to implement USAID and FAO food security and nutrition programs.
Thank you. Now to the question, why do you take interest in this topic? And then you can continue with what Anthony asked you.
It's grossly insensitive to the pains and hurdles that Liberians are facing back home. The response from the political analyst, and I think former leader of ULA, further demonstrates that the money is a political money. It has no clear agenda. He has sat here and identified two different ways by which the money or the intention for the money. One, at one point in time, he will say the money is a way of identifying over 500,000 Liberian based in the US. When you push him further about the over 500,000 Liberian based in the US, are living in a society of almost having excess with multitudes of opportunities to raise money. When you push him, then he goes back and says, oh, ULA will use the money to address problems in Liberia. So the money is not intended to address problems for ULA original membership, because ULA original membership are residents of the Americas. His second theory is not intended to address challenges, but to enhance their work in Liberia. And the poor Liberians will benefit from the resources that will be given to ULA. I have a serious problem with that. But also, he tried to liken what McGill wants to initiate with what is happening in the US. When he argues that organizations in the US are helping government through public health institutions and addressing health challenges. That's wrong. Absolutely, that's not the same. The model here in the US is set out, and that's what I work with. That's what I work with. It sets out in advance clear guidelines and requirements for institutions who want to engage into helping government address government development challenges. If it is in the health sector, they set clear guidelines and criteria on how institutions can benefit, and the process is competitive. where different institutions who have different strategy to address different strategic problems, whether in the health sector, in the education sector, there's a pool of funds where these institutions compete through proposals and they receive funding to address those problems, and key indicators and performance benchmarks are identified. And they are audited on those performance benchmarks, but also audited on their financial performances. You can't take state resources and donate to an organization whose agenda for its usage is not clear. One point in time is intended to address and work with over 500,000 Liberians living in the diaspora. At one point in time is intended to address education health problems in Liberia. What competitive process you went through? What make you think that YULA is the only organization so worthy to receive funding through the budget when there are several other organizations here in the US that are also addressing problems back home in Liberia? To solve that problem using the US model is for the government of Liberia to identify a pool fund where institutions that have specific expertise and have demonstrated capability over time can compete for resources to address those problems. And talking about addressing problems in Liberia, let's be honest with ourselves. The tons of NGOs in Liberia working in health and education sector, understanding the situation on the ground, their core mandate and objectives are to work with community institutions to address those problems. Which one of them are more effective and convenient to solve those problems compared to an organization based in the US?
Mr. Mambe, you put a lot on the table. Let me give chance to and Mr. Kune, the first thing you should please speak to is what qualifies YULA. What have YULA demonstrated to?
But let me dispel some of the misinformation the brother gave. The reference to 500,000 people was the fact that YULA represent 500,000 people in the diaspora. It was not a statement to say that the money will be used to the benefit of Liberians that live in the diaspora. I'm just what you said. No, it's not what I said. No, it's not what I said. Oh, man, when you are talking, I didn't interrupt you. I listened. I appreciate your passion, but I think you got to really be a little bit civil for me to speak out too.
I'm civil. I'm just telling you that what you said.
Yeah, but if you interrupt me, then you're not civil because the discussions are not held that way.
But interruption doesn't talk for somebody being incivil, not being civil.
No, that is an expression of intolerance.
No, I'm tolerant to what you
not
say.
Not necessarily, but Mr. Mabe, let's hold it there.
Just calling you to a point.
I didn't interrupt you because I want the viewers to understand what you said. I was being respectful of you. So I think you need to respect what I said too.
Mr. Mabe, give me a chance. Go ahead.
You know, you mischaracterized my statement here as saying that the money is coming to 500,000 Liberians in the diaspora. I said that was a description of what YULA represents. And I continue to maintain that whatever that will be placed in the budget, I'm not in YULA, but I hope that the people in YULA will use it to enhance whatever work that they do in Liberia. The money will benefit.
You are not in YULA leadership, but you are in YULA. You are not in YULA leadership. That's what you mean.
I'm not in YULA leadership. I'm not speaking for YULA leadership, but I'm saying that if such allocation were to be made for YULA, knowing what I know YULA to be doing in Liberia, YULA will utilize that money for Liberians that live in Liberia. It won't be the other way around, like people portray it like it's going to be a Western Union transfer that will come to the diaspora.
So Mr. Coney,
let me dispel another notion he made. YULA, the membership of YULA here is based in the diaspora, but the core function of YULA is not limited in the diaspora. The core function of YULA spreads out to the homeland. So you have to be a little bit familiar with what YULA is before you make some of these forceful arguments. Yeah, what was your question now?
The question is, what qualifies YULA for this money? Mr. Mambe spoke about pool that people will compete and someone will be qualified, right? But now YULA is just picked like that.
Yeah, the government just picked YULA just like that at a political
So
what qualifies YULA for this money instead of other organizations?
So you expect me to answer that question? Who didn't make the decision, right? I didn't pick YULA.
Why not? You are so intelligent to do so. Do so.
No. I didn't pick YULA. I didn't go into the judgment. I picked YULA. But I'm saying,
answering questions here for YULA. You said YULA going to use the money in Liberia, even though you are not a spokesman for YULA.
I'm based on the activities of YULA in Liberia. The government might have deemed it necessary that this is an organization they can work with to do whatever they want to do in Liberia.
So the government is just picking who it wants to work with and who it wants to
get money. Government pick people all the time. This is not, when you're presenting kind of argument is like, this is government pick people, government pick businesses.
We are asking you questions. We are not making arguments.
Government pick businesses, government pick winners, government pick losers. It happens here in the United States, it happens everywhere. Liberia is not unique. Government pick and choose all the time.
And that is a good thing.
Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, it is part of the governing process. That what people who govern, that what they do. They pick.
So the government favors YULA of all the Liberian organizations.
But all the Liberian organizations, YULA are not on the same level. That's the point.
I'm not talking about level. They are equally Liberian. So that issue of not on the same level, I don't see how it makes sense yet.
But if you put it on the same level, say the government pick only YULA, then you are saying that all organizations are on the same level. All organizations are.
Yeah, they are all Liberian organizations, so they are on the same level. That on the level talking about Liberian organization.
No, they're not on the same level. I disagree with you. YULA is the largest. I disagree with you. They're not on the same level.
What Mame presented, the issue of level is not relevant, right? Because if the government is funding projects in Liberia and have a specific fund, that pool that people come and apply, and there is a competitive process. Yeah. That's what he's speaking to.
Yeah, but I'm not here to answer government questions. I'm here to tell you that YULA partnership with the government of Liberia is not unprecedented. That's what
would it be preferable?
I'm not here to answer government questions. I'm not a spokesman for the government. I don't make government budget laws. I'm just trying to tell you that the decision for the union and the government to collaborate is not an unprecedented one. That YULA has worked with, continue to work with various Liberian government. That this is not a unique situation. All of the budget questions you're having, you need to ask the budget people in government to answer.
So, Mr. Cooney,
let me come in. The reason why we are asking YULA to stay away from this, budgetary allotment is because, and it's just unfortunate that you're not in the leadership of YULA and we engage in you. So some of the statements you made, you bypass the real issue to say I'm not YULA. I really want to see the YULA person. But until we can see that person, the point I'm trying to send through is you are conniving. YULA is attempting to connive with the government to do a wrong thing. So what we are trying to do is YULA is forming a collaboration. It's a convenience that they're trying to establish with the government to do a wrong thing. What we are doing here now is we are pointing out the wrong so YULA can identify it and save herself from future embarrassment. What are the wrongs? One, if government, as you said, wants to identify institutions and NGOs to help address development problems, that process of identifying and funding them must be competitive. Yes, government can pick, but government must speak based on criteria. Government must speak based on predefined criteria and based on the expertise of institutions to do what they claim they want to do. That has not happened. For YULA to move into an arrangement with government to receive money is the wrong thing because the process in itself is not competitive. That's the first thing. So that's why we're calling on YULA to not do it. The second thing is he kept arguing that if YULA received 300,000, then it means all the problem will be solved, or all the problem will not be solved, and YULA doesn't receive it, then it means all the problem will be solved. No, let me tell you something. When government creates a budget, the budget is a law. When government creates budget, the budget is a law. An attempt to want to change major requirements or major financial resources from in the budget will require budgetary approval. You cannot do it on your own. How is ULA? And that's why you listen to Maggie. Maggie smartly said the next budget year they will include 300,000. It's possible that the Ministry of State has budgetary allotment for gifts and donations. It's possible that within that budget line, they want to take 100,000 and give to ULA. It is at their discretion. We are saying to include ULA in the national budget and give them 300,000 or even 100,000 is a wrong precedent that has not happened and should not happen. ULA relationship with the government does not have to extend to ULA being included in the national budget. If McGill and the Minister of State have decided to use for donation budget and donate 100,000 to ULA, then we can come now and question the rationale. And on the basis of questioning the rationale, what we'll be looking at is, why would you want to give, what is the justification of 100,000 to ULA? When right in Monrovia, hospitals are not having gas in their generators. For the budgetary process, we are saying it is unprecedented, it has not happened, and it should not happen.
Mr. Mabe, question for you.
Can I come in?
Hold on, Mr. Kone. Mr. Mabe, question for you.
Yes. Mr. Kone.
Yes. So this is the government through McGill that made this pronouncement. I want to believe to the shock of ULA. I'm not sure there were any conversation held that we're going to do this. So in this situation we're talking about, is ULA a problem here, or is the government a problem here?
ULA is a co-conspirator in what is about to happen. The response from ULA and people within ULA, their acceptance, the defense they are putting up for what is clearly a wrong thing to do.
Has ULA put on any defense that you know of?
No, I'm not saying, no, I'm speaking to the political analyst here who is a member of ULA. ULA as an institution hasn't spoken on the matter.
Okay.
I'm speaking to him. So I'm saying the defense he's putting up for what is clearly a wrong thing, all the attempts he tried to use to justify them, we've provided clarification. He jumped in the US and said the US can fund NGO to solve community problems. I told him the process the US government uses to do that, that process is predefined with criteria on how to be selected.
So ULA has not done any wrong yet.
Come again?
ULA has not done any wrong yet.
ULA as an institution has not done any wrong until we can hear from ULA. But from the statement he's making, and as a former, I think I listened to him say,
former president and former chairman of the board.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And now he's advisor to the current president. So he has the president's ear.
Unofficial advisor.
As advisor to the current president, it's a clear indication with the comments he's making. It's a clear indication that ULA endorses the decision and is therefore a co-conspirator.
Not necessarily so, because he said based on what he knows.
Can I say something here?
Hold on, I want Mr. Mario to clarify this, because he used this word conniving. He said ULA is conniving. And I pull up the definition: given to or involved in conspiring to do something immoral, illegal, or harmful. Is that what you meant?
Yes. I'm saying ULA is working with McGill to engage in something that is clearly a wrong thing to do. It's wrong.
Even though you acknowledge that ULA is yet to do any wrong.
Come again?
I said, even though you acknowledge that ULA is yet to do any wrong until ULA makes a decision whether or not to accept these offers, right?
So I'm discussing ULA in the context of what the advisor to ULA is saying. Okay. If you can tell me, if you can tell the audience that he speaks in a private capacity and not as advisor to the president, then that's different thing.
I'm not an advisor to the ULA president. I did that all that time.
But look, hold on, Mr. Kone, because you said wrong. You are staying away from using immoral, illegal, or harmful. You're saying wrong. I'm looking at conniving because that's a strong word.
Oh yeah, I said holding the fact, not that he's clarifying that he's not part of the leadership of ULA. So let me use the word now to say, I suspect that YULA is in a connivance with the government to do a wrong thing. The wrong thing is, one, giving 100,000 to a US-based institution is insensitive to the pains and hurdles Liberians are facing in the country. It's insensitive. If you want to do it, the process by which NGOs work with government, that process must be competitive, it must be transparent, and institutions executing certain programs must demonstrate historical record of competence in addressing those problems.
I agree with that. I agree with that. Mr. Cooney.
Look, listen, you know, and this is the interesting thing about Liberian discussion. We get in this discussion, we use very strong words. I don't know whether sometimes we are aware of their meaning. An official, a responsible official of the government of Liberia comes to the US establishing a working relationship with a diaspora-based Liberian organization, and we're using words that are criminal. Words that are criminal. I don't know what has wrong with our discourse. For me, I'm not here for sentiments. I'm not here for sentiments. I'm here to tell you that I see absolutely nothing wrong. The government of Liberia forging a working relationship with its largest based Liberian organization. I see nothing wrong with that.
Me too. See nothing wrong with that.
I see nothing wrong with that. I see nothing wrong with the government of Liberia trying to give financial support to a Liberian organization that is providing services to Liberians in Liberia. I see nothing wrong with that. I see nothing wrong with that. So if YULA is providing services to Liberians in Liberia, and the government of Liberia think it is within their wisdom to provide resources to this organization, for this organization to provide services in the area of health, education, school renovation, school construction, I don't see any problem with that.
And Mr. Coney, before you land here,
hold on, please. All these high-minded criminal political language, I don't know where they come from. My brother here considered that government can pick and choose. Government can pick and choose.
That's the criteria.
Oh man, you don't set the criteria for the government. You don't. You're not in the government. You don't set no criteria. What criteria does the government give for funding the private schools? What criteria do you know the government give for funding hospitals? What criteria do you know the government use for funding the marketing? And so, do you know those criteria? You don't. You don't. So I think the key thing here is
you assume that I don't.
The key thing here is there are people that view YULA as a political organization, and YULA must be in a permanent political opposition to this government that they dislike, to the extent that any relationship between YULA and this government must be condemned. And I'm saying it would be a wrong thing for the union to do. The union need to embrace this relationship, work with the government of Liberia, where it make a difference in the lives of Liberians in Liberia. And hold the government accountable when the government do things that are not in the interest of Liberia. I don't see a contradiction in that.
Mr. Cooney, YULA, as we speak, is not a legal entity in Liberia. Is that correct?
What do you mean legal entity?
Okay, YULA, as we speak, is now registered as an institution in Liberia. Is that correct?
I'm not aware of its registration in Liberia.
All right, if you don't know, let me state that for a fact. I
state it for a fact because I'm being away from the union leadership for almost 6 years.
And so let me state for the fact, saying you don't know. I know YULA is not registered as an organization in Liberia. YULA is not.
100%.
So what it means is this is an organization based in foreign land that the Liberian government is giving money to. You don't find any, I'm not saying there's any wrong, but I'm just asking you.
I don't see anything criminal. I don't see anything immoral. I don't see anything conniving. Nothing I see. I see
foreign donation to.
No, I don't see anything. Look, the Liberian organization here donate to Liberia at home. Is there anything criminal about it? Is there anything immoral about it? There are people here that are in political parties. All the political parties got their organizations here that donate to Liberian elections at home. Is it criminal? Is it immoral? Why when it come to YULA, all the sensibilities come out?
We are asking questions. Don't pour us in these bags of.
It is only because opposition political parties, opposition political parties see YULA as their extension. And look, I know it. When I was president of YULA, there were people in the opposition that wanted to use me as an opposition to the government. The position is YULA will work with any Liberian government that is in power to the extent that that government is doing things for the interest of the Liberian people. That is the position.
Thank you, Mr. Coney. Also, at the program, it was not all about donating money.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Thank you so much. This is Focus on Liberia, and we are in conversation with Mr. Ambula Mame and Mr. Wilmot Weti Kuni. Mr. Kuni is a former president, former chairman of the board of YULA, and also a chief political analyst right here at Focus on Liberia. We are discussing the money given to YULA by the government of Liberia, or the pledge to donate $100,000 this year and $300,000 on an annual basis. And Mr. McGill said that amount can even go up. Mr. Cooney looks at this as a constructive engagement. Mr. Mame is saying, no way. YULA should go through a competitive bidding process to be able to qualify. If that is not done, he suspects that YULA is conniving. Something Mr. Barnes also said, that taking the money away from Liberians to donate to YULA, he finds that, in my description, out of whack. Mr. CA, we're going to comment in a few minutes, but what's your take?
Look, and I'm going to pour my opinion out there. Topic like this, I like to do my little analysis that sometimes can get on people's skin. But I just want to say, the chief political analyst of Focus on Liberia, I'm not here to give him kuwe. I'm here to give him better boss. And if he can't swallow it, let him get some water. I think the discussion is going fine. What I want to see is that as a people, let us look at things from every side. We shouldn't look at it with one eye, right? Governments around the world give donations, grants to institutions. Is this the case here? Has YULA done any wrong? YULA has to say something. I just want to discuss this and see. But I believe, if you want my opinion, this is what I'm going to give.
Keep your opinion. Let us not go there, because we don't want to give the juicy part yet.
Yes.
We want our viewers to come back and watch the Hour of Politics, where Mr. T.A. will do what he does best. Let's take some comments here. Priscilla Inato says, so Mr. Cooney, when you were president, what was the process used for YULA to receive money from the government? Or you have always been lucky to be the organization that benefit from government pick and choose? Jackie Sayer said, with all the rapes in the country, they could have done a service fundraiser instead of dancing up the storm. And Jackie, I was there too. The only thing I couldn't dance, but I love to watch people dance, and the dancing was good. Magnus Casa said, does the government have the legal authority to audit ULA? If not, how would they be spending anything? That's a good point. Who's going to make sure that this is accounted for?
No comments here, Dennis. Let me read that one from Baton Kula. Liberians in the diaspora send over $500 million to Liberia annually. ULA is another Liberian organization that is being co-opted by the Magewia and Twer.
Evans Morris, I think once the funds are being used in Liberia for projects that will benefit Liberians in Liberia, I see no wrongdoing. And Tavina Kose, Kuni, the criteria is set, meaning the criteria to give to hospitals and other institutions in Liberia is set using established laws, rules, and guidelines, all of which are not followed in this case. Mr. Kuni, before we go further, can you take all this bitter ball? Because more.
But there is no bitter boy here. There is no bitter boy here. Nothing. That's also. I don't even know that okra we own here. the basic thing here is that ULA is the largest diaspora organization. ULA has worked for Liberians in the diaspora. ULA has worked for Liberians at home. The union has always sought engagement with the government of Liberia. Even you are aware, you are a historian, even during the days of President William R. Tolbert, Tolbert wanted to place the union at the center of national development. And Tolbert invited the union to go to Liberia for them to discuss, to engage on developmental issues. Unfortunately, the coup took place. So this is not the first time, and that's the point I'm making here. On all of the other considerations, there are things, some of the things that have been said are out of my, what I'm trying to say, working with the government of Liberia, ULA has always been at the table. We were in Accra at the Accra Peace Conference that put the comprehensive peace agreement together that brought the interim government.
ULA has been taking part, Mr. Kuni. That's not the point here tonight. Let me read more comments if I don't mean to interrupt.
Well, where's the point that the money issue the point?
Yeah, let me read more comments, Dennis. There's a lot of comments.
The Union Best Solo say if ULA has been part of the country budget in the past, then nothing wrong with it being part at this time.
And this one from Randall Thompson, ULA, if you take the 100K and allow your institution to be placed in our nation's budget, it will haunt ULA for a very long time. Don't you see what's happening in Liberia?
Absolutely not.
Fandua said this government is so unserious. I'm not surprised that ULA is getting government money. Isn't it the same government that gave Ellen Johnson Sirleaf $1 million for some useless foundation? The Amoje Foundation is not useless. The government may be wrong to do that, but I don't think that's a useless foundation. William Ketter, Liberians are very interesting. When ULA was in the business of regime change, Mr. Mame was strongly in favor of the actions. Now that the government is trying to unite its people, this brother is calling it conniving. Sad.
And this one from Carr, the U.S. government for public diplomacy, needs, etc., has outreach to many diaspora groups in the U.S. This doesn't compare.
Dr. Sam Govo, why GOL can use the money to hire jobless youth to clean the garbage in Monrovia, turning ULA into a pro-government or CDC-friendly organization, bribery and corruption in broad daylight. Mr. Kuni, and I have two questions.
Bella Boya for Mr. Kuni from Amara Keita. Mr. Kuni has U-turned completely in his advocacy. Unbelievable.
Right. And I know to Dr. Govo's question, Mr. Kuni is saying whatever money the ULA is getting is going to be used in Liberia. So it may be able to hire the jobless youth you are talking about to clean the garbage. I don't know, Mr. Kuni is. But my question to you, or Mr. Mambe, before you come in here is, most of the time you see people in the United States, in the diaspora, they are calling for sanctions on the government. And people have used YULA, especially in the past, where YULA was used to just criticize government. Maybe people are trying to still see YULA in the same light that just criticize. But now they say, well, we want to work with government. Is your issue with the amount, or that that YULA is making these attempts to, as Mr. Shehu Kamara said, constructively engage?
I have absolutely no problem with YULA engaging the government to the extent possible. The record of YULA, the historical record of YULA's contribution to Liberia cannot be understated. We know it is documented. I don't have any problem. We're trying to avoid a trend. We're trying to prevent what might turn out to be a disaster. One of your commenters raised a point about YULA being registered. Okay, it was Anthony who raised the concern about YULA's legal registration in Liberia. And like I said from the beginning, from the onset, if the Ministry of State decides to use portion of its budget to donate to an organization, that is up to the Ministry of State. I have no problem. We can all argue on the rationale behind it. We can all argue on the use of funds. That's up to the ministry. I will argue that for the Ministry of State to provide 100,000 donation to YULA, they will probably build a public school into a community of over 200,000 people without any public school. I will suggest that. But my argument is the step that Maggie took further to say they will include YULA in the budget as a spending entity. That's where I have fundamental problem. If the Ministry of State want to donate to YULA, they can go ahead and donate to YULA. We can argue and say the donation is not important, the donation is directed in the wrong direction. The second part of Maggie's statement about including a non-profit organization in the budget as a spending entity that is not registered in Liberia to operate is where I see the problem, and I see it as a connivance. That is my problem. Look, talking about addressing problems in Liberia, YULA as an institution, there is something you call the effective use of resources to generate maximum return. Everybody does it in their homes. Why don't we do it for government? Look at those organizations in Liberia. When you're talking about addressing education problems in Liberia, health problems in the communities and in the counties, which organization is best suited to do it? The one in Liberia that live and work with the people year in, year out? Then the organization based in the US, we fly in and fly out with no establishment and experience. We're not talking about going to implement one project and leave tomorrow.
And illegal, add that word, the illegal institution.
So that is my problem. Maggie want to donate to YULA, you can donate to YULA. We can all argue on the basis of the donation and the use of fund. But to include it in the national budget for funding, there are issues about audit. How do you audit them? When you audit YULA members who are in the US and they are culpable for financial malfeasance, how do you extradite them for prosecution in Liberia? You know, then he sees nothing wrong with that because he associated with YULA. They coming to receive 100,000, they coming to receive 300,000, and they get what they do. I listen to Samuel Jackson.
Let Mr. Cooney come in first, and then we can go to that next point.
This discussion is biased against.
Mr. Cooney, stop that! Stop that! No, I mean, you're going to accuse your own neighbor of being biased. Yet, what is the biasness?
Let him express himself, Mr. Sear.
No, the man wants to. I don't have to.
We can't be sensual here. This is tough. Maybe I used to my tough talking. I thought today was Thursday. You know,
I'm tougher than you. Go ahead.
You know, I used to my tough talking. Look, I like the discussion because we get some disagreement, then we make some progress. We get some disagreement, then we make some progress. So my brother here is saying that if the Minister of State want to donate, the Minister of State can donate. Fine, that's the minister's, prerogative to do so. You can question the judgment, fine. And I think it's progress that we're making. He talks about the money being in the budget. Well, that is a fight for another day. The Minister of State does not design the budget. The Minister of State doesn't make Liberian budget. Liberian budget is approved by the Liberian legislature. So
the Ministry of State is not drafting the budget, right?
No,
I thought that the executive drafts the budget.
I said the budget of the Republic of Liberia is passed into law by the Liberian legislature.
No, first you said does not make. You said does not make. So go ahead.
If it goes through that process, and the legislature of our country, in their collective wisdom, think that such a spending is necessary, I still don't see connivance. I still don't see anything immoral. Or else every law the people will be passing will be categorizing those laws in that light.
Mr. Kony, quick question.
The point here is...
Quick question, just to add to your thought. You say if the legislature and the people see nothing wrong with it, we're not discussing it. Your opinion is important. You on the show. Do you see anything wrong? Don't say if they do it, then you don't see anything wrong.
I don't see. I've stated that over and over. I don't see anything wrong with the government of Liberia having a working relationship with its largest diaspora organization. I don't see anything wrong. Listen. I don't see anything wrong with the government of Liberia providing funding to the activities of that diaspora organization on the ground in Liberia to help Liberians.
But you're not even registered in Liberia.
You're not even registered. Then you're talking about on the ground.
You're stop drifting.
ULAA is not registered. That is the fact you need to acknowledge.
Mr. Kony,
I told you at the time I was there, the organization was not registered. I've been away more than 5-7 years. I don't know its status.
All right.
It is not registered.
And if the organization is not registered, I will find it problematic that it is not registered and it will be receiving government funding in Liberia. I will advise that if it is not registered, for it to be registered. For it to be registered. I want for things to be done legally.
Good. Now, so I come in quickly. So if the organization is registered, so like you said, we're moving forward, we're making progress.
Yeah.
So ULA goes to Liberia and register. That doesn't automatically qualify ULA to receive government funding as a spending entity through the budget. That's where it brings me to the model that you referenced, that you try to use from the beginning of the show, that organizations here in the U.S. are helping U.S. government address health and education problems in the community. ULA being registered in Liberia should not automatically qualify ULA to be placed in the budget. What should happen? Excuse me. What should happen, since you are interested in things being done the right way now, what should happen is the government should have a pool fund where the government will announce strategic areas of interest that the government doesn't have the immediate capacity to address and want to rely on the expertise of non-governmental organizations to do. Once the government does that, selection criteria be defined, and based on those criteria, institutions like ULA can submit project proposal and be funded. But just being registered in Liberia should not qualify any institution to automatically receive funding. When the funding to President Salih's organization was announced, we criticized it. And it turned out to be that it was a mistake. I think that the last thing I heard, the president NGO said they were not aware about it. And I don't know how it ended, whether it
and how could that have been too, right? When that was not the first time, that was not the second time. And
so if you're interested now in doing it the right way, just registering ULA in Liberia is not sufficient to be included in the budget. The government, like we do here in the US, will reference it as a good example.
I disagree with you.
Mr. Kony.
Yeah, no, I disagree with him. In as much as I agree with the registration process and other things like that, again, the determination as to whether ULA get funding in Liberia, it can go through criteria, it can go through other means. Look, my brother, we in the political space. Organizations get funded based on advocacy. On advocacy.
There are criteria.
Mr. Kony, this thing should be guided by laws, right? Like a 501c3, 501c4 operating here in the United States, there are laws. You can't just receive money or send money, so we're not going to go into those laws.
You can't just receive money. The national legislature approved the budget, so you can't just receive money.
No. If you are operating in the United States, foreign
But
donations.
we're talking about Liberia, your leader, United States.
No,
but you reference it as example.
It's the same process, right? Even if you are sending money, but here is the thing, Mr. Kuni, which I don't think we should play a blind eye on. You know, in Liberia, we say you eat my rest, you got to sing my song. So here is now YULA that has been tough on government's back, right? Now getting budgetary appropriation from government. Do you really think, even here where you work, sometimes they tell you do not get above $11 from your client? Do you think if YULA is being funded by the government of Liberia, will YULA have the teeth to be able to bite? Will YULA be able to hold the government accountable in those areas that the government is performing poorly?
I think the question you ask is the major reason for the opposition to this engagement. And you are not addressing it. And people need to be honest. Is the concern legitimate? Is that people need to be honest about it? If that's what they feel that it will impact YULA advocacy in Liberia, come out and say that, and then we discuss that. What I'm saying, I'm confident. I'm not in YULA. If I were president of YULA, it would not impact my position on whatever stance I would take.
The simple question is, can you fight the hand that feed you? That's what then is. Can you fight the hand that feed you?
I have absolute confidence
that you can fight the hand that feeds you.
I have absolute confidence in the leadership of Mr. Shehu Kamara that this relationship will not lead him to compromise the union. But most importantly, I believe in the goodwill of the government, that this relationship is not being built because the government wants for YULA to praise sink. Again, the Minister of State, McGill, was very clear. Hold us accountable, point out our wrong. The problem here again, and I'm saying it over and over, people are taking this thing to the level they're taking it because they used to YULA of the 80s, the 70s, that perpetual anti-government institution always fighting government in Liberia. That's what they know YULA to be.
Can you fight the hand that feeds you?
These are the same people. Listen, these are the same people. They look us in the faces when we talk about YULA. Oh man, the only thing you go for that fighting government. Now we want to fight government again. We want to work with the government to solve the problem of the Liberian people. What's wrong with that one there?
Mr. Kone, please clarify that statement. You don't want to fight government again.
Yes, because and this is the reason we don't. YULA shouldn't fight government again. In the 70s and the 80s, when we were fighting, there was no democracy in Liberia. There was no freedom of travel of Liberian political leaders. There was no freedom of the press. All of those rights were lacking in Liberia. Right now, we have all those rights. Opposition people are traveling.
You can't say that.
I'm saying that we don't have all those rights.
Everything is perfect now, so there's no need for.
No. I'm saying right now we have democracy in Liberia.
But the democracy have problems. People are getting
but you have your. Okay. This is why you have.
They could not even receive the money.
This is why you have your opposition political parties.
No, but you cannot say YULA cannot advocate now because it should be a Kumaya movement now.
And you are not even receive the money.
It's a fight.
They have not even received the money yet. You start hearing
because we have democracy now.
Let me tell you something.
For the advocacy YULA used to do in the 80s.
What we doing the advocacy, but you want YULA to be the only advocate. I'm saying
no, I didn't say that.
Okay, but I'm telling you, Dennis, you elect opposition people. They are opposition lawmakers that are eating $39 million of the Liberian people money. Pressure them, let it go against the government. YULA is not in opposition to the government.
So, Mr. Kunin, that is the problem. These opposition people, they are getting money from the government, so they are not advocating for the Liberian people.
So why the Liberian people keep electing them?
And is about to receive 100,000 and 300,000 in the budget.
How is that
YULA fault? Can't be sure YULA is going to advocate anymore.
How is that YULA fault? This organization that you branded as being the producer of rebels to go and cause chaos in Liberia, we no longer want to cause chaos in Liberia.
So you want to take money just as the legislators are taking money. That's what you want to do.
We're in a democracy. Vote the legislator out. Come to YULA. I challenge you.
All right.
Come to YULA.
Mr. Kune, you were saying, okay, don't come to us. The Liberian people, since the legislature, as you said, have failed us, the opposition are not doing much. People are turning to organizations like ULA for advocacy.
No, they're not turning to organizations like ULA. No. They're not turning to organizations like ULA. It is the same Liberian people that welcoming corrupt lawmakers in Liberia. It is the same Liberians that down with corrupt law. So they're not looking for savior. They have the ability to save themselves.
So ULA want to be more of the same. Take money from lawmakers and do nothing, right?
No,
is that what it is?
We want to constructively engage the government. And we want to make a difference. We want to work with the government to make a difference where difference matter. We don't want to be a permanent opposition.
Dennis, let me bring this to Mr. Cooling's attention. They say, comment here from Scholar Jackie Sayer of Focus on Liberia Literary Hour. More money, more than the amount in the budget for computers for MCSS.
Then
this falls within the issue I raised earlier about priority, right?
Who allocated the budget?
Education. This is MCSS. It is a recognized arm of the government education sector in Liberia. Jackie is raising the issue that this money Magé is pledging to ULA is far more than what has been set aside for MCSS, a government institution that should be providing computer literacy education for young people in Liberia. So what is the government priority? To give money to an organization that is not registered in Liberia and in the diaspora? And the MCSS that is on the ground, you're not giving more money enough? How is this not a political calculation for the ULA year to become the toothless bulldog it actually is?
When ULA start backing you, Brandy, as the factory for producing rebels in Liberia.
Let them add.
Right. Mr. CA also want to add that the stationery for MCSS or that allocation is less.
It's less
than the stationery for Mr. Magéo's office.
For Magéo's office, and what they even giving to ULA? How is that fair?
And a civil society organization established to champion the cause of the people sees nothing wrong with that.
And as we speak, I'm not interrupting you. The MCSS superintendent, my friend Professor Azezalo, he has a GoFundMe on the line right now, raising money for MCSS.
It's being creative.
ULA that should be contributing to that GoFundMe is being given money by the very government that has no money, for which one of their arms or institutions is raising money through GoFundMe.
And a civil society organization credited for standing on the side of the people has no problem with that, only because there has been a promise. If you listen to Mr. Kune, how he talking about, if the legislature put it there, what should we do? The people elect corrupt people. If they see corrupt people, they can elect. They don't want to describe ULA as people who want to undermine ULA, don't want to fight government again. Only a promise of 100,000 has started to generate these type of unpatriotic comments. Because a patriotic person who have led an organization committed to speaking and standing for the people will be concerned that MCSS doesn't have computers. That even though the people are standing and supporting corrupt leaders, but they are doing the wrong thing, we as an independent body will try to conscientize and continue to tell them that's the wrong thing. But he referencing politicians, opposition politicians, receiving money and not saying anything, but wants us to believe that ULA will receive money and will continue to say something. Look, there's a saying that says, in God we trust, all other we investigate. And the basis for that is to bring it to the point of risk mitigation. In America, where I work, when I, travel to whether African countries or South American countries, you say, when you meet government officials, don't go for lunch more than $50.
Right.
The reason is not because they don't trust me. They trust me. That's the reason why they hire me and give me over 50 million budget to manage. But they're trying to reduce the risks of somebody influencing my decision.
That is correct. And
So,
that's what we do.
And that's the point Dennis was raising. You cannot keep telling us that politicians, opposition politicians receiving money.
We have less than
opposition politicians receiving money. It cannot talk for the people, but YULA will receive money and YULA will talk for the people. YULA have not even received the money, but YULA is closing her eyes on the fact that MCSS doesn't have computers. Right. Clinics in Liberia don't have generator. No drugs in the hospital. YULA have not received the money, but YULA has no problem with that. But when YULA receive the money, then YULA will have problem with that.
And YULA is even yet to speak. It's been 24 hours since the pronouncement was made. YULA has no statement whatsoever.
Look, I think I need to respond here.
No, Mr. Kone, we're about to close. I just want to remind you that you can have a piece of cassava in your mouth and blow whistle. So YULA can be having the 300. YULA can be having a 300,000 in a pocket.
The policy of constructive engagement is the right thing to do.
Mr. Kone, I want you to give your closing comment. Tavina Ko is saying, when was the last time we saw YULA putting out position statement on rape or all form of violence in Liberia? So if you were not doing this thing before and now you get 100,000, 300,000 from government, will you have this piece of cassava in your mouth and blow whistle?
The thing about the Liberian people, like to
and that would be your closing comment, sir.
Yeah, the Liberian people like to be spectators in their own struggle, and they think that it is only few people that are designated to lead a struggle on their behalf. They never participate in their own struggle. You struggle for the Liberian people, you own your own. All of these critics of YULA, there is now one record where they've made any significant financial contribution to the union. The weight of running this union has been on the shoulders of very few. And these are the same people that go around and tell the people how useless the organization is. It's a toothless bulldog. Now, because of the government involvement with YULA now, everybody now discover YULA teeth. YULA now supposed to be chewing. What's wrong with your teeth? But you were not brushing their teeth before. You were not cleaning their teeth before. So this is the deception in the Liberian political system. YULA is a useless organization. Oh man, that useless organization. Until somebody come along, a government that saw strength in the diaspora, saw the power of this largest diaspora organization and want to engage the diaspora using YULA as the spearhead for the engagement, for bringing Liberians together, putting all of our hands on deck so that we can develop our country. All of the political opposition, semi-political opposition, quasi-independents, biased politicians, they all coming up now to say that this is so wrong, YULA should not do it. I want to applaud the government of His Excellency Dr. George Manneh Weah for the wisdom, for the thoughtfulness, and I want to congratulate Minister Nathaniel McGay. You know, the minister himself said that as a government, they struggle with the whole issue of YULA. There are people that denigrate YULA at every level. When people want to engage YULA, oh, those people, they are rebel. Don't engage those people. But this government, they went beyond the mistrust. And they've made themselves available. They've made themselves a relevant partner of YULA in Liberia. And I'm not speaking for the union. I'm not in leadership. I'm a former head. But I think it would be wise. It would be very useful for the current leadership to continue its policy that they established, to work with the government of Liberia, work for the Liberian people where it matters. And if the government, I don't support corruption. If anybody is found engaged in corrupt practices, if the government is not doing that it's supposed to do, YULA, I believe, will play that traditional advocacy role. But for people to limit the association, that the only thing YULA can do is just political advocacy is wrong. We changed that mandate 2005 in Madison, Wisconsin, where we added social services to YULA. So we don't only advocate politically, but we advocate to provide the needed services to our people. And if our government is meeting us halfway to provide those services, there is absolutely nothing wrong. The government is being innovative. The government is being smart. The government is being very, very forward-looking to try to have this partnership with its largest diaspora-based organization. And I really applaud the government for that. I applaud President Shehu Kamara. I hope he will not listen to the detractors. These detractors of the union. He will not listen to them. He will not be intimidated for him to budge at this criticism. Let YULA work with the government and let YULA deliver for the Liberian people where it matters. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, for bringing me here. And my views are my views as a political analyst, as a former president of YULA. I do not speak for the organization. I'm not in authority to do so, but I'm speaking as an individual. Thank you.
Mr. Mambe, your closing comments.
We reject, we oppose every decision to take hundreds of thousands of dollars from Liberia, where there is poverty, where kids are sitting on the floor, where drugs are not in the hospitals, to give to an organization based in the US, where there are multitudes of opportunities, where there are riches. We oppose that. We come here not to push an argument that YULA should be in constant opposition to government. That is not our position. We come here not to critique or to oppose YULA's decision to engage into social services. That is not our position. We are saying if Minister McGill or any government institution wants to donate to YULA, it's at their discretion. We can argue on the usage, and the people will hold them responsible. If you have your MCSS running GoFundMe to raise money to put computer in school, and you donating 100,000 to an organization that has the capacity to raise millions, but sleeping on herself, that's up to you. What we oppose is every attempt, any attempt, to include an organization as YULA in our national budget as a spending entity, when audit and compliance issues are almost impossible to enforce. And even if enforced, when people are culpable, you cannot prosecute under our laws. We object that. We oppose it. We will begin the process. YULA have not spoken. We will begin the process of engaging lawmakers and even Liberians. We don't rely on lawmakers. We will push ordinary Liberians to oppose this decision. This is the same kind of thing we oppose when lawmakers included budgetary allotment in the budget for what they call engagement.
And accessibility.
And accessibility. A similar thing that's happening. It will start with 300,000, it will go to 500,000, it will go to 1 million, and it's happening at the discretion of one or two persons with no criteria, no benchmark for selection. It's scary. And organizations who put themselves on the line for standing for the people can be compromised just on 100,000. I'm afraid. I can see the frustration in him when he keep arguing that YULA kept fighting, but Liberians cannot recognize. Liberians cannot recognize. They keep blaming YULA as organization responsible for war. I can see his frustration, but your frustration should not lead you to the point where you take money from somebody who you're supposed to hold accountable. You will not do it. If in your own voice, the opposition leaders cannot do it, if you take money from them, you will not do it. And if you want to take money from them, it must be through the appropriate process. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sieh.
Dennis, thank you. I came to this discussion to ask questions, and I didn't put my opinion out there that much because I wanted the Liberian people to see what we are talking about. You said it all, Dennis, with that little parable. Can you hold a piece of cassava in your mouth and blow whistle? No, and no. Can you also fight the hand that feeds you? Of course, no. This is a political and tactical move by this government. The government has been on this mission for some time now. Give them money. When they take the money, they become your friend, they will be quiet. Or they will not say anything. YULA, the member said, has to its disposal sources of money in the US. We have the US government giving grants. We have millionaires and humanitarians here of recent. I think the guy is the head of Amazon, just gave $50,000 to Planned Parenthood.
The ex-wife.
Yeah. Thank you, Danny. His ex-wife did that. So YULA can just find way to raise money and not suck from the poor Liberian government that cannot even afford its bill. This government was indebted to EU. We were dropped and we were turned to a floor member. This is the government we're talking about. And YULA that have access to institutions and individuals with millions of dollars cannot find a way to raise money, but will probably accept, if not, they have not accepted yet, but who is poised to accept $100,000 from a McGill who has been on this mission, going from county to county in the need of presidential projects, trying to coerce people politically just to maintain power. YULA is smart enough to see this political maneuvering that is going on is coming from the office of the Minister of Presidential Affairs. It's clear. Only an insensitive individual in the ranks and file of YULA will see there as something being done in good faith. That is not. Mr. Cooney said something that is profound. He said that the current president of YULA should not listen to detractors. I'm a detractor. All Liberians who have concern about an organization that represents the entire Liberia, I mean Liberians in the US, are now detractors out of a sudden. So, Mr. Shehu, this is the message for you. If you listen to Cooney, your administration will fail miserably. Manions, Liberians, there is no YULA, no it now. And Liberians who are speaking, they are not your detractors. You should be able to govern this institution based on the will and the pleasure and the satisfaction of the Liberian people. Not all you will get, but you have to listen to the majority. What Cooney said is a dangerous statement. So if you believe him that we are detractors, so be it. Then your leadership will die a natural death, and maybe it's death upon arrival. Sorry, I've been too strong, but that's how I do it. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sia. Thank you, Angola, and thank you, our chief political analyst, Mr. Wilmot Wetty Cooney. Well, I want to tell a story, right? Because from what I'm getting, first of all, there is a tendency to believe that as it started with the invitation of Mr. McGill, that as long as YULA invited Nathaniel McGill, point blank, YULA is corrupt, YULA is compromised. I want to reject that. That we have to engage the government. That's our government. We have to engage them. I don't believe that YULA, Mr. Shehu Kamara and YULA purposely invited Mr. McGill so that they can get money. I think that was the start of what the president calls constructive engagement. I also believe that Mr. Shehu Kamara is an honest and level-headed individual. I do not believe he can be compromised from 100,000. As Mr. Mohammed said, this is to reduce the risk of compromising or even the optics of being compromised. So it's a good thing that he take note that the government does not use this money or this donation as a way to get their support and say, well, I mean, we give them money. What I think Mr. Kamara should be looking at is ways of generating income, which many have seen now that even if all Liberians here pay $1, I mean, that's so much money for YULA. So let us look at ways to be able to get money instead of going the government route, because no matter how you slice and dice it, the optics don't look good. And here's the story I want to tell, and that story is from the Bible. There was this morning rich man that had 2 sons, and you know the story about the prodigal son. His big brother is the one I want to talk about. So by Jewish law, the big brother is entitled to half of what the father has. But this big brother did not know. So when the prodigal son returned and was being given these things, the big brother complained and said, oh, for all these years I served you, but you did not even give me a small goat so I could have party with my friends. What the big brother did not realize that by virtue of you being the big brother, you already have half of this. It's more than gold. So what YULA has, the gold mine that YULA is sitting on top is more than a gold. YULA can tap into the resources here in America and triple that 300,000 that Mr. McGill and the government of Liberia is promising. I want YULA and Mr. Shehu Kamara to look in that direction. And that's how we're going to do it tonight. And we want to let you know that whether you agree that by accepting the money, YULA and Mr. Kamara are conniving with the government, or they're going to be co-conspirator in whatever the government is doing. Whether you believe this is in good faith, and Mr. Shehu and YULA is going to demonstrate astuteness and also accountability and transparency. Whatever you believe about this, one thing is clear: we are all Liberians, and that's the message we want to leave with you. Good night, and God bless you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home.